All right. Well, this is fun. Let me go ahead and pull down the music. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome. My name is Stephen Bowles with Shoflo. And today is just a day to talk about producing virtual events, how you can do that in the software, how people are actually just doing it in general. But on the front end, I just want to go ahead and say, welcome. I'm glad that we're able to do this. There's a lot of people. We're expecting somewhere in the range of 100 to 200 people. Like a week ago, we just kind of were sitting around talking as a team, and we said, we've got a bunch of people, users of Shoflo, friends, all that, who aren't doing much right now, and it's not by choice of their own. There's crazy things happening in the world, and it's hitting all of us on every level. And so we just want to be content. We just want to be helpful. So today is really just all about open dialogue, conversation, and us really just trying to help you maybe learn a few things about how you could be using the software, or maybe learn a couple things in terms of how other people could be using the software. So that's where we're at. Again, there is a chat, and happens to be the JP chat who's on here with us. Some of you guys might have interacted with him on our support chat at Shoflo. So he's awesome. He's there catching your questions. So send them. He's fielding them. He's sending them to me. Of course, we got Slack open over here, and I'm kind of keeping a conversation going on with him. Also, if anyone else you think might be interested in this, we are streaming this currently on Facebook Live, and you can, whatever, send them a text, tell them to tune in over there. But with that, let's go ahead and get going, guys. Here's the agenda, right? The run of show, the running down, the show flow, whatever you might call it, which we do actually have, right here open to my right. I've got literally this show flow going right now. So the general webinar kind of overview we're going to do today is hit a few polls, not for any other reason than we want you guys to be learning more about your peers, and we obviously want to be learning as well too. We all don't have a clue what's going on in the world. It's kind of hard. You see a bunch of stuff on Facebook, you see a bunch of things on LinkedIn, but it would be really, really great just to be able to share and help each other learn. So we're going to do about 3 polls real quick. JP, if you want to go ahead and get the first one going, go ahead and launch up what's your production industry. We'll get going right now on that. Outside of that, while that's going, guys, go ahead and fill the answers in. The sort of high-level points on the agenda are today is we want to just talk about what's happening in live events, and really only, to the extent that's reasonable. There are people in this industry who have a lot more visibility. Shoflo's got some in terms of the impact of this, so we'll try to speak to it a little bit, but for the most part, just kind of take a second, acknowledge it. See how different major players in the industry are responding to this. Just if it's helpful, we'll pass those resources around to you. But then ultimately really just kind of get into how do you use Shoflo for virtual meeting production. And so we're going to walk through all of that. All right, real quick, JP just finished it. Go ahead and share the results. JP looks like majority corporate event productions. So that's ballroom sessions. That's great. We got some sports and game prez. We got some internal meetings. Awesome. All right, JP, let's go ahead and stop sharing that. Jump to the next one. How many of your clients are even asking about this? Let's go ahead and launch that one, JP. How many of your clients are actually looking to do virtual meetings? We're hearing it a whole bunch. Everyone's asking us, or they're saying this is what's coming at us. But just more for you guys. Where are you at on this? How much of your customers are going, just a little bit? I'm curious, or the world's on fire. We got to do everything virtual. So let's go ahead and close that poll up, JP, and share those results. Awesome. JP's got us at, geez, okay, so, well, this is kind of confusing in terms of percentages, but 15% of people are saying almost 100% of their events are going virtual. Looks like the leader there is somewhere in that 29-ish% of you guys are saying that almost 75% of your events are at least being considered going virtual. So that's it. I mean, I think that's validation. That's what we're all hearing. Last one, which is classic, but we're preparing for this like a few hours before. How much are your clients looking for this, right? So what, how much of your clients, or roughly what percentage of your events are actually going virtual? Actually, I think we just did that one. We're going to skip that poll. We're going to jump into the next one. So let me, guys, just kind of talk about a few things, right? What's happening in the world with live events. So in general, this is kind of what's going on, right? We're seeing this across the board. I mean, Zoom's almost like the most classic buzzword we've ever heard right now. Everyone's talking about it. It's the thing to do, and people don't even know what they're talking about. It's almost like when the elderly are talking about what the cloud is. They just kind of don't even know what they mean when they say it. But Zoom is the thing. Cisco WebEx, whatever it is, everybody's being pushed into some sort of form of solving this. Right, the baseline for getting together has like gone way, 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 way down. And so the question is how do we as an industry, our role, our responsibility is produce live events. How do we come in and do better than this, right? That's maybe like a baseline question for anyone on this call and anyone being asked about this is how do I achieve something better than what, Zoom and Cisco WebEx can do out of the gate? Because obviously there's just flaws left and right with this. This thing's designed for maybe 16 tiles. You can it's fun to be a part of a meeting that's got 100 of these tiles, but it's actually like a disaster in terms of being able to have clear communication and messages and all that kind of stuff. So the question is, how can we deliver something just above what this is? So what are we learning, right? What are people saying out there is actually happening in the world of live events? This is actually from a group called Lasso, who's got a wonderful piece of software. You should look into it if you can. But they have a published PDF that you can go to their website for and learn about it. But they were generally asking, when are these events being rescheduled? Well, looks like June, but of course that's a shifting landscape, July, August. A lot of it though, seems like a lot of this stuff's getting pushed to the fall. And that makes sense. The question is, between now and the fall, how many of them are going to be trying to solve for something intermediate, something in the in-between zone for a virtual meeting between now and then? There are, if you just kind of look at the main kind of players, and these by far are not the only ones, but if you just kind of look around and say, how are other groups solving this or providing solutions for this? PSAV's got virtual meetings and events. You can go to their webpage. You can look at it. Theirs is going to be a blend of putting, event-based applications where you can actually have your attendee app be something that's a little bit more than just where they should be next, but also passing through some of those streams live. You've got LMG in the middle who's really saying, hey, there's a lot of different layers. Once, of course, any sort of shelter-in-place ban is gone and people can move around a little bit more, how do you get your presenters into one studio and broadcast an amazing, high-quality webcast from there? So I think that's a wonderful option. I love that option. Then you got Freeman as well, too. They've got plenty of documented answers in terms of how they're doing it as well, too. It's sort of a blend of all three of these together. So these are what the big boys are doing. Everyone's being impacted by this. Everyone's trying to figure out how do we meet the problem where it is. I just want to give a shout out. This is all over Facebook. It's all over LinkedIn. I'm sure you guys are seeing it too. But our own community, right, of like professionals, whether independent contractors or the actual event client or event agency yourself, we're all just trying to get in the game, right? We want to contribute in the ways that we can. So I love this. This is that concept of a lot of production people kind of creating their own virtual meeting studio where they can handle multiple inputs, multiple outputs to stream and Skype. So these are just examples. They're all over it. If you're not on LinkedIn and you're not on Facebook, it's pretty simple. Just get on there and you're just going to start seeing this left and right. I love this. It's a testament to innovation during a period of time. Here's a great example too of just like, this is esports. This is a group called Riot Games. They use Shoflo. We love them. They're freaking like leaders in the industry, paving waves. Esports has been way ahead of this curve, right? I mean, they've been doing this since the concept in terms of just saying, hey, maybe we have a live event going on in a venue, but for the most part, we're producing something for the remote audience. And so these guys, the sort of shelter in place ban that they had in their areas, literally had to decentralize their entire production from being in a studio to being in people's apartments. And they pulled it off, and Shoflo was a part of that. So fascinating article. You can go to SVG, which is Sports Video Group. They got a great article, and they really kind of break that down. It's going to get a little technical, but if that's if that's what you're into, there's a lot of really great content in there, and it's really cool to see. In general, this is what we're kind of finding. I would say that when I think about a producing team, our responsibility to deliver better than the Zoom 100 windows probably starts with something like this. And again, this is not a technical deep dive on this subject. And if you want to, we'll do more of these because we certainly can, and that's my background is live video directing. So we can do that, but there's also a lot of other players that are doing that out there. But I just wanted to kind of put a little bit of a visual into this. The way that in general producing teams should be looking to deliver a virtual meeting is somewhere in the space of this, where you have your presenters that are likely doing something in the space of a one-to-one Zoom or Skype or whatever, and those things are coming into a video switcher. You then also have your graphics, you also have your playback, audio's in there as well too, or you know, a sidecar to it. But that's kind of happening, and then you're having a production or a video switcher of sorts do the ultimate broadcast switch. And then that is an output that goes again into likely some sort of Zoom laptop. Of course, we're using Zoom here. It could be interchanged with Skype or whatever you need it to be. And then that's what's being sent out. So really, we're still depending on the larger Vimeo, Wowza, Zoom, Skype, Cisco. We're depending on them to do the one-to-many. And then we're really just trying to create a nice controllable space around the production sides of things, right? And so again, you need to reach out to, this is if anything, this is an encouragement to event agencies. You need to be finding your narrative on this, because this is your value add when doing it. Otherwise, you're just Zoom. And Zoom does a video switch between who's talking, but it's messy. Somebody's dog barks in the background and boom, we're looking at the wrong window. This is where we can come in and we can get into it. There's all sorts of challenges with this space. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to overly simplify it. There's all sorts of challenges in this space. And none the least of which are, how do you do comm? How do you do chat? How do you do, you know, shared speaker timer? How do you get virtual scripts to people? So some of that is areas that Shoflo can help. And so that's kind of where we're going to go into here as we move into the second part of this session. So real quick, JP, run the other poll that I totally messed up before, but now it's a great time to run it. What did you want to learn today? This would just be helpful. So let's go ahead and run that poll if you haven't done it already. And that can be going on in the background. So that's just more like, do you want to focus more on the producing of virtual meetings, or do you want to focus more on Shoflo features and functionality, how you can use our software in a virtual meeting that's already going on? So that'd be helpful for me, just to kind of make sure I keep the dialogue on it as we go through this. We'll take just another 30 seconds on this one. It's awesome, guys. We got over 163 people on this. By the way, we're just going to keep cranking out content, and we want y'all as guests. So to be honest, anyone who's on this call who thinks they have a strong case for how and what could be an effective way to do virtual meetings, or just wants to show how baller they are in Shoflo, ping JP, reach me directly. We're literally doing 2 of these a week, and I'm looking to load it up with guest speakers and things of that nature. Okay, cool. Let's share the results real quick. So a lot of people looking for, it's kind of split down the middle. It's great. So some people looking to learn more about producing virtual meetings, and other people looking for, you know, how to use Shoflo in a virtual meeting. So JP, go ahead and share that poll results if you want to. Yeah, there you go. Boom. All right, so that's awesome, guys. Well, let's keep going into it, and I'll keep referencing back to that. And real quick, just now knowing that a lot of people are interested in knowing how to produce virtual meetings, I'm just going to go ahead and jump right over here and just say, if you're not looking at vMix, vMix is a wonderful solution. Again, this is assuming you're not using an LMG or a Freeman. You're just looking for a way to produce a show from your New York City, Brooklyn apartment, or wherever it is. vMix is a great option. That does a lot of the things that I just talked about. They're a solution in that space. You do need to have a technical production guy on staff, or you need to hire an independent contractor out there who can help you out with that. So they're a really great example. Obviously, if you can spring for a lot of the money, but you don't want to build $1 million system, Blackmagic is going to come in strong in those areas. You can, for less than 10 grand, get yourself going in general. And then the last one is, it's kind of funny. Oops, sorry. Newtek's kind of got a little bit of a bad or mixed, you know, sort of a feeling in the marketplace in terms of where it fits in live event production. But to be honest, they're in the best position right now, them and vMix, for solving virtual meetings. So anyways, that's that. Outside of that, your better answer is to lean into your rental and staging company, like your the ones I talked about earlier, because they are way ahead of this, and they are preparing for that accordingly in their ways. I want to mention that. Oh, the last one I wanted to say was Discord. Discord chat's pretty baller if you're not using that one. So Discord is basically a great way to basically create your own comm group, chat, all that kind of stuff. So it's a really effective way to get your crew onto a group chat or a group comm and be in conversation with them as well too. So that is a good one as well too. Just gonna leave it right there. All right, guys, we're gonna swing back over to Shoflo. And real quick, I'll just hit the major points I want to talk about with using Shoflo for virtual meetings in production. And this is this. What I showed you earlier, that's the technical challenge. And that's, directionally, Shoflo, I think, has value to bring in those areas, and we're always looking at that. But right now, we're assuming you've got your answer in that space. The question is, how can we help and facilitate inside of that, right? Once you've already got your solution set up with NewTag or other things, how do you have your, how does Shoflo bring value in there? And like I mentioned earlier, think about it. The basics are this. You've got remote presenters. What script are they reading? They're used to walking out on stage and having 2 downstage monitors. They're used to a producer, a PA, who literally is on comm with the stage manager or the producer, who pushes them out to the stage, right? So their like responsibility in terms of being ready to be on stage and on screen has relatively been low compared to what it is now, which is now they have to be on some level technically capable of understanding what their setup is around them. They have to figure out where cameras are on webcams. They need to know when they're alive, all that kind of stuff. And so the question is, as a producing team, how can we bring value to you guys? And how can you identify the tools you need so that you can deliver a better experience than Zoom? So for Shoflo, here's the areas we're going to look at today. Shared visibility of the run a show, right? So it's like get the run a show out earlier, share it with presenters, share it with your distributed production team and your presenters. Live tracking, obviously it's one we all know, but let's talk about it honestly in terms of distributed production and presentation teams. Shared speaker timer and clock, and then presenter notes and remote prompter. We're going to load up Q&A as we go through the whole thing, and if there's a good one, JP, feel free to hit me up and I'll look at it here on the left. But otherwise, we're going to really kind of load up the Q&A as we go through. So, all right, guys, let's jump into it. So let's hide that and jump into Shoflo. So in Shoflo, well, if you haven't been in Shoflo or it's the first time you're looking at it, I'm not going to do a deep dive on any of that, but it's a rundown software, and it's a software for production teams to produce live shows, meetings, virtual meetings now, of course, and then live events and broadcasting game sports presentations. So the whole spectrum, but in general, the biggest thing here that we're going to focus on today is what would a virtual meetings script look like or run a show. And so I've kind of built one out here just for testing purposes and just to kind of create a narrative for us. So there's a couple things. Let me kind of walk you around the bases here pretty lightly. So you can kind of see we've got our run of show over here on the left. And in general, the way I've built out this run of show is I've got my items. I've got the start time column. I've got the duration column. I've got an images column. I've got general production notes, audio, video, and presenter notes. All right, so let's kind of just break into this, and I'll zoom in just to kind of make everybody's lives just a little bit easier. So a couple things that we're looking at right out the gate. This meeting is a virtual meeting. Starts with sort of a welcome, and we've got Jeff as the moderator here. He's got an agenda slider too, and then he's tossing to Rachel. So then Rachel is going to lead us through the Q2, Q3 sales performance. Then we've got Rachel going on in here. She's going to toss to Mike. There's a series of slides here. There's polls throughout, and then there's a camera. We're going to toss back to Jeff, who's our moderator, and Jeff's going to toss it over for technology update. And that's going to look very, very similar, but just different presenters. We got Bill and we've got Susan. So that's kind of our baseline layout right there. So let's just talk about how would we even do this currently. If your client says, this is all I'm trying to do, which again, for most of us event agency groups, this is like a walk in the park in a ballroom. This is just every day. But in virtual meetings, like how are we doing this? Like how in the heck am I actually going to pull this off? Because likely Jeff is, well, where is Jeff? Let's go look at that. So I'm demonstrating this idea here at the top of your run of show, and we've seen this already from customers, so this isn't out of nowhere. The idea of kind of creating a pre-run of show section where you can lay out some data for the teams and the people who are looking at this. And so we actually have just general notes. So guess what? Today our host is Jeff. This is what he looks like. He's in New York City. He's on dedicated laptop, and of course you can go in there and say dedicated laptop number 8. You know, again, the technical team can go in and add that detail, and that's his number, right? So then presenter A is Rachel, and so on and so on, and this is what they look like. So even right there, you're kind of putting some visibility into something that beforehand you would have benefited from in a venue because you would have seen them walking around. But now I can't. I don't even know who these people are. So being able to bring in images into Shoflo, being able to see that is really, really helpful. Also notice the color coding here. I've got cameras always I marked as green, and you'll see other ones as I go through. We really feel, and we've heard this from customers from day one, there's power in color. And you don't usually get it when you get printouts, to be honest. But there's power in color because for your production teams or your presenters, when they're just glancing ahead, green can already tell them something before them even having to look with detail and read the text. They can just start to prepare on some level for what that means. So then we're using title rows here, guys. So title rows, we can see we're starting at 3 p.m. And with title rows, we're basically saying, hey, this is a section of rows that are sort of collected together as one. And so this pre-meeting sequence, or your pre-show, you might call it, but you know, pre-show walk-in doesn't really happen when you're on a virtual meeting. So this is your pre-meeting sequence. There's a lot of things happening. We're going to do a tech check. We're going to start the live stream. We're going to run a graphics loop, right? And that might be coming again locally into the production switcher. And that's going to go for 8 minutes. That auto time calculated 8 minutes means we're going to start the 2-minute video at 3:08. And again, for those that aren't familiar with it, Shoflo does not break any of its time. So if we call 20 minutes, that's going to auto ripple the entire show all the way down. So when I was building out this script, I knew I wanted to move and start the meeting right at 3:10. And so an 8-minute here plus a 2-minute video countdown is there. I've found in general that teams that are doing like video countdowns make webinars a lot easier. I was trying to do it just even audibly, saying we're getting going in 1 minute. Just because if you're doing Facebook live streams or anything like that, they might be joining an hour later. You might have had 20 minutes of pre-walk-in. They're dumb and they don't know, and so they don't know to hit live. And so then they'll watch your 20 minutes of pre-walk-in. So things like that can be helpful for people understanding, oh, okay, I can jump ahead if I wanted to. All right, so we're in the meeting start. The biggest thing I'll note here too is every single one of these presenters are in a different location in our scenario that we're walking through today, right? So I think Jeff, who's our moderator, he's actually in New York City, and when he tosses to Rachel, she's going to be wherever she's going to be, Chicago. So I've found, and I believe that the consensus out there is true, is that your strength in producing a good script for virtual meetings is having something like a moderator, some sort of anchor that you can actually move around the bases of, because as soon as you make it a wild toss, you've lost control. And then you don't really know what to do and where you're going to cut to next. You really have to think about a virtual meeting, specifically if you're taking over the video editing and control switching. You need to know where you're going. You don't need to wait and figure out what's going next. And so if you don't say specifically to Rachel that she first tosses back to Jeff, then she might toss to Mike, but Mike might be looking over to the right or drinking his coffee right now because he's not prepared. So it's really important to control your flow of your script, which brings the run of show and the show flow to a whole nother level of like critical and value and things like that. So we can kind of see Jeff here is sort of doing a couple agenda slides, and then he's going to toss over to Rachel. And so Rachel's starting a whole new section, right? And so we gave it a title row, we gave it the appropriate notes, and now we've got the graphics. So I think in general, that's enough right there. Now I'm going to start kind of working through some of the features and how the presenters might be using Shoflo. Okay. So let's say that we started Rachel's presentation and I just tracked right into it. And again, people who aren't familiar with tracking in Shoflo, tracking is a really cool tool. It basically lets you say, as a broadcasted show caller, this is where I am, like down to the second. And then anyone else who happens to be following along, which I believe I have someone right here. Yep. So this user over here is following along. And so you can kind of see if I was to track forward over here and space forward, then that user is going to follow as well. Again, this second window here is representative of a second user, right? It could be a video guy, it could be a broadcast stream guy who sent it out, or it could be a presenter. That's what I'm going to break down here in a second. But every time you track into a row, if there is an item runtime, like we just said right here in 10 minutes, we actually kick off a 10-minute countdown. Right? So baked into Shoflo is a speaker timer. And so even though speaker timers have been around forever, the idea of putting it at the bottom of the stage and all that DSAN, all that jazz has been there forever. Shared speaker timer hasn't. So that concept right there is actually an interesting way to use Shoflo, where now if your production team is in different locations, for example, if you had a PA who's in an apartment in New Jersey and she's on comm with production in New York City, she's also on a one-to-one either Discord chat or she's on a one-to-one phone call with the presenter in his ear, and she's cueing him and you're live. Like right there though, the ability to have a shared item runtime clock is critical so that we all know where we are and how we're doing. So it's cool. That comes baked into Shoflo right there. It just follows along as the show caller goes in. And again, if you go into something that actually goes over, which I can just kind of make the case for that real quick, we can just do a 10-second one and then maybe turn off some of these disabled pieces that I had in it. If you actually track into a show that has gone over, or sorry, into a row that actually goes over itself, it will actually count into the negatives, into the red. So it gives you a real clear sense of whether you're over, heavy, or light. And actually in this space, an exciting thing we're working on in Shoflo currently, developing right now, should have in a week or two, is the ability to actually like show you on the total show how heavy or light are you, right? So you've exited out of 5 rows in a row 1 minute late, so you're actually now 5 minutes over on the show. So it's really cool technology we're working on right now. But anyways, I digress. Let's jump back in. So let's talk about what we've got here. So I'm going to track into Mike's presentation. So what are our options for Mike? Like, what are Mike's actual options? Well, if he's not presenting via screen share his own PowerPoint, he's likely, just like you guys, got some sort of Zoom up right now, and he's got that ideally positioned underneath the camera. That way, just like right now, I'm looking directly into the eyes of the camera as much as possible. But you don't want him to have that full screen, because all of a sudden now he's staring dead center, and that's not what we want. We want it actually to be as small of a window as possible and up towards the top where the webcam is. So now we've got all this additional real estate on your space. And so it's like, what could we be using that for? Well, I'm going to make the argument that we can use this for Shoflo. And actually, we've got customers who are doing this already. Riot was talking about using it this way, or they did and have used Shoflo as they had to sort of break everybody apart and do it from a different place. So let's pretend now that this user right here, this is Mike. So all of a sudden, I can actually take Mike, shrink him down to about right here, and then I don't really have a good example because I can't use my Zoom window because you're already seeing it and it kind of hides it in Zoom. But I do have this just to kind of make the point. And so this is my kind of just camera viewer or whatever. But let's say it's something like this. Right here, I'm giving my ultimate focus ideally towards the webcam, but I also have this additional real estate down here to be looking at and having a conversation with whoever that might be. So we've got in Shoflo a lot of different views, one of which is what's called featured view. So this user could have been in compact view. So Mike, if you wanted to invite him into Shoflo, you could be in normal view or compact view, or he could go to what we call featured view. So the benefits of featured view are a lot of things, but the least of which is you can select one specific column, i.e. presenter notes, and pass that through right here on the right. And so for him, he can actually come in and make edits right here. So he can come in here and say, add, I don't know, add a new thing. And he could make that red or he can make it yellow, whatever he wants to do. And as soon as he hits save, that's now there. So this is really powerful because he could be right there while he's watching someone else on the broadcast, think of an idea he wants to change or whatever it is. Also, just FYI, you can lock him out, right? You can make this read only as well too. The point is that he's seen in this view his speaker notes. He's seen the item runtime clock, so he knows where he is and how much time he's got left. And he's seen the plan over here on the left. So I hope that makes sense. Because that's kind of something I'm going to be building on top of from here. A couple of notes about that. One of which is this. If Mike's about 7 minutes into, he's got 7 minutes left in his presentation, but you can tell he's only on slide number 1. What are your options right now? You're going to text him? Like how do you get that information that you want him to speed up or slow down? Well, with Shoflo, we've actually got some of those options. So again, remembering that this user over here is the show caller, you have access to this. And so I'll just kind of put this over here on the left a little bit just to make my point. So you could actually come in here and say, yo, Mike, you know, please wrap. And you could make your point, you could make it bold, you could do whatever you need to do, make it red. And as soon as you exit out of edit mode, that's coming on through. So Mike saw that and he got that message. So even right there, that's new value, right? That's a different way of thinking about how to use Shoflo in a real-time space with a remote presenter and a remote production team. So it's kind of cool. That can go as far as you guys want, right? Obviously, you can put pictures in here. So I could drop, just to kind of make the case on this, I could actually delete the contents in this cell, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here as I do it. Let me go ahead and shrink this down just a little bit. There we go. So I can actually come in here, I'll delete the contents of this cell. We're going to see it go away there, of course. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to insert an image. And I'm just going to choose a file locally. I'm just going to go find, you know, some sort of picture that I've got, corporate logo. It could be right there. There we go. Cool. Open, insert. So it's going to even pass through images. So you have a lot of flexibility in how you're using this area right here. It could be pictures. I'm not suggesting use it as your PowerPoint presentation because you'd have to create a different row for each thing. So don't try and think about it like that. But there's a lot of flexibility inside of that. The other thing I want to make a note on here is that you can actually put a pretty full-size script in here. So if I go up here, we have a fun little lorem ipsum generator, and I can just kind of say generate 224 words. So I can come in here, put those in, and we've actually got a decent script right here. And so for Mike, he's got two different options, right? So Mike can sit here and it's really simple. Just scroll at his own pace. Just kind of keep it going. He can make edits. He can change the size. If he needs binoculars, he can come up here and kind of make that bigger. He can make that smaller, whatever he wants. If you really wanted to, and if you feel like Mike's got the capacity, or maybe it's not Mike who's a standard presenter, but maybe it's your actual host or talent who's capable and more comfortable with being in entertainment and being in a production, you can start to leverage what we call our teleprompter feature. And so that's really kind of fun. It's prompter view. You basically click this here in the upper right corner, and that's actually going to take you to a full-on preview of Shoflo here in prompter view. So let me go ahead and go find where we are with Mike. So you can do that by opening up the left panel, and you just go down and you find whatever it is you're looking for. So I'm going to go find, let's see, graphic slides, Mike. Mike's going to be in here somewhere. Oh, I'll just go with this one. So you can actually take this, control its text size, right? So you can keep getting it bigger and bigger and bigger. You could make it really, really big if you wanted to. This could be narrative. You could take it to bold. You could take it to all caps. You can control your line heights. So there's a lot of flexibility in here. But at the end of the day, this is actually going to let you come in and hit the space bar. And then if you hit the up and down arrow, you're going to control your speeds. And so this is a little bit more of a hands-free type experience here. But it is available to basically any user in Shoflo. But obviously, if you're bringing in a presenter or a host or someone who has a little bit more control, and they can always scroll up and put themselves where they want to be, right? They could be here, they can get ahead or below. So there's a lot of flexibility inside of this. But for the most part, that can be a high value thing for, again, remote presentation teams, right? People who are in different locations, who have different needs, but at the end of the day, they don't have that producer in their ear, and they don't have that teleprompter operator who can put it right there in front of them at the downstage monitor. This can be a high value thing. Also, just in general, this is now very helpful for broadcast studios, esports, anything in that nature. Okay, so I'm gonna pause real quick. JP, if there's any good questions, go ahead and send them my way. I wanna start peeking at them as they're coming through. And while we're there, I'm gonna swing back over to featured view and make one more statement while we're in here. So a couple things. Building inside of Shoflo here allows you to be adaptive, obviously, way up in the real-time space, right? Up down to the second. And so being able to be dynamic, change things around, say, hey, I don't want to actually be in this thing for 10 minutes. I want to be in it for 5 minutes. There's a lot of flexibility that comes with that. And so that's what's going on over here, being able to move, because I need to be this user actually. Being able to actually move rows around and say, you know what? based on how this is going, I'm going to hide that column so we can get a little shrink. Based on how this is going, I'm actually going to come down here to you know, I don't know what the next big one, Jeff's feedback. And when I say, Jeff, you got to do this now in 1 minute, right? And you're trying to buy back minutes as you go. So there's a lot of flexibility in that space. The other one that's been really, really cool to see how customers are doing this and users are doing this is the ability to use links, right? Links in production notes. So for example, right here, I've got the ability, if I wanted to literally upload the file for Jeff's PowerPoint, right? And there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but let's just start with a really, really simple one. I could come out to the event dashboard, and again, this is inviting these users in. It's okay. It's typically something you would be like, no way, but you kind of have to, and there's value that comes with that. So if I was to simply just come out here and grab my webinar PDF, you can drag and drop that in. And as soon as you upload that, that's now going to be available here for everybody to use. And then you could even link to it inside of certain things if you wanted to. I can actually drag and drop my keynotes in here, videos. So you have a lot of different options in terms of what you're actually uploading. And then you're going to be able to come into your actual week 1 link right here. And you can choose if you want to link them directly to a cell. Other options, of course, are you can actually link out to a Dropbox file. So right here, you can kind of say, hey, this is my pres, you know, V2. And then you could actually link it over to www.dropbox.com/whatever, insert that link. And as soon as they click that, they're going to actually launch over directly to that URL. So a lot of flexibility in how you can actually port files around, but that's kind of cool. And so at this point now, if you're going to bring your presenters in, or at least a remote PA or producer who's helping you coordinate all this, they can be doing that. They can be putting those links into Shoflo, bringing that all a little bit closer. Because at the end of the day, what we need is in that hour or two before your virtual meeting goes well, and certainly that 30 minutes, we need quick access to all of the things, right? Whether it's images, PDFs, timing adjustments. We don't want to be making edits and then doing printing off and running them around backstage. We don't have that luxury anymore, and that's just kind of a reality to that. Last one I want to mention, and then we'll go to the Q&A here, JP, so send them over, is downloads. We've got Guest Pass, and Guest Pass works really, really, really well. So everything I've showed you so far today is within the context of a user who's invited into Shoflo. Isn't that complicated? It's basically just email and password. But let's say that you really just don't even want to go that far. You can do this, right? You can define which columns are coming through. So maybe you just say it's presenter notes and images, and you can then generate this link, email it, text it, do whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, you're going to be generated a link just like this, and they don't have to be logged in at all to be looking at this. And so they can just scroll through, they can see their scripts, they can see their times, they can see where they are. Again, high value. Every single time they go to this URL, they're going to get the latest and greatest if anything's changed on their end. So that's what that is. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for a second, and I'm going to switch gears and really kind of start focusing on some Q&A. So let me go ahead and grab one. So holy cow, lots of questions. So why didn't you make a column for cams or slides for webcast full screen? That's from Brian. Well, you can. Honestly, I mean, the flexibility there is all day, every day. I would say for the most part, for building out this run a show, I focused on the flow over here and just kind of referenced laptop cam. But the truth is if I was to go the next layer in here and I knew that Jeff is cam 1, then I would probably be coming in here, copying and paste that, and under video saying specifically this is cam 1. And again, a really key value. This is a crazy one. I actually ran into this one yesterday. But if you wanted to, using find and replace, you can literally look up cam 1, and if the last second, technically it just changes. And again, that's production, guys. So all of a sudden we realize that we don't want to call them the cam 1, or it's easier to call them zoom 1, or we want to call them zoom X, right? Whatever that might be, you can actually quickly see them all and either bounce around and jump to where they are, or just hit replace all, and boom. It just happens. And right there, you can see cam 1 went to zoom X, right? Or we can change that back, which is probably what I'm going to do because I want to use this thing later and probably share it with somebody. So I'm going to go ahead and change that back. But that is a high value thing in terms of just being able to be adaptive right there. And obviously the key benefit there is everybody got that change, right? That right there would be such a substantial change. It would warrant 75 new versions of a run of show, and that sort of gets left behind. Honestly, the question to your question, why don't you have cams? You should. And one of the great reasons for it is the more columns you have, the more specific you are, right? In a world where you don't have everybody on comm, or if you do, it's still tricky. The more columns you have, the better you are, even if you want to create one called, PA notes. And this can just be a place where people are talking about PA notes. Hey, Rachel's a little bit slow on starting. She doesn't take cues very well. Cue her 15 seconds early. That's the space for that. And what's cool is the video guy might say, I don't need that column. Gonna hide it. Don't need this column. Gonna hide it. So every user gets their own space, which is cool. All right, next question. We will be talking about virtual events aside from virtual meetings. Yeah, I mean, we can, not today. I mean, virtual meetings is basically just the concept of a run of show. We're expressing it through an all hands, but the concept of it is still the same. Virtual events as a whole, in terms of like meeting with logistics and booths and all that stuff, that's going to be something that I would push you to larger organizations like Freeman, PSAV. I think they're working that problem at that scale. And I think for us and for our users, we're really working on how can we help you produce a solid stream or a solid show that's better than Zoom, but without the benefits of all that we're used to with venue-based things like a ballroom and your crew backstage. Do you recommend presenters use the same laptop to follow Shoflo as they do the stream video? Yes. Well, I would say it's very possible. Having it side by side has its advantages. First of all, Shoflo is low on its kilobits game, so we're not going to be the thing that breaks you. And so we're pretty light in terms of what we're requesting usage-wise from you. Your stream is going to be the thing that makes or breaks your overall computer performance. And so to that end, that's a big technical one that your technical team should be guiding you through, but they should not be pulling out a 2007 MacBook Pro and trying to run a stream on that at all. So you need to have the best computer you possibly can, and then obviously camera itself, all that jazz. That being said, the reason I would actually push for Shoflo to be in the same space is because what you don't want is what you're seeing from me every once in a while, which is this. You don't want that, because that's what they're going to do. You give somebody something else to look at, and they're going to look at it. Although it is funny how many people just end up staring at themselves the whole time. But I really believe that the idea of putting Shoflo right here underneath the monitor, or actually even just to the left, is the best way to pull this off if you're going to give Shoflo to the presenter. All right, if you use Shoflo for live events but want to use it to present to office staff who are not on the production side of the company, is it easy to invite and allow those who are presenting to get the login and ability to use this to guide me? Any ability to get this to guide me and to share the graphics and videos and present them in the meeting? All right, there's a lot of stuff there, and I want to write a blog about that. But that being said, here's how easy it is. It really is easy, guys. Shoflo is not a very complicated system if you're not the one who's building out the run of show. Shoflo is literally events. They will be, if you invite them in, they will see one event, and it's whatever it is. They click that, then they're going to see the week 1 or the week 2 or whatever their show is, and they're going to click that, and then they're in. It's that simple. And so we can absolutely build an article that breaks that down one at a time. And then in terms of inviting people in, it's really awesome and really simple. It's invite crew. You'll literally give them their name, steve@apple.com, hit enter, give them the permission you want, which you likely want to be contributor or read only, and then hit send. I won't do that because I don't know where that's going to go, but that is in general what it is. Just FYI, we have a lot of customers that are actually the end-to-end corporation who are using us for the all staffs. And then we have the event agency that are using them for the larger produced shows that are not just kind of all staff meetings. How much overhead will Shoflo take in terms of internet bandwidth? I think I answered that earlier. It's light. There are ways to look into that if you're technically whatever, interested in that sort of thing. DevTools Inspector. It's an easy way to get it up and running, and you can really kind of see some of that network performance going on down here in the bottom. So to whatever extent that you're interested in that information, you can kind of see that. But the short answer is it's light, really, really, really light. All right, cool. Can you upload the current run of show in Excel to it and then edit? And do you have templates? All day long. all day long. Hey, real quick, I want to just make a note. It's coming up on 1:45. I think we've got good engagement. I'm going to keep going, but I appreciate anyone who does want to bail off. And then also just please go to showflow.tv, and you'll see a really clear link at the top that says where you'll be able to see our upcoming webinars. And again, a reminder, we really want to be talking with event agencies, production teams, esports, broadcast studios. We want you guys in here. We just completed one in sports. We're going to keep doing a couple in sports, but we want to load it up. We want to do 2 of these a week. Cool. That being said, appreciate y'all. Stay well, stay healthy out there. I'm going to stick with this. All right. So in terms of uploading, yeah, absolutely. We've got it. It's right here. Create new, CSV import. From here, you can literally drag and drop that file on. I have a basic example of what that would look like right here. It's under Documents, Demo, CSV. Run of show CSV. And this isn't one that we like prepped specifically for this. This just is what it, one of our customers look like. So then from there, you can kind of move forward, or here, yeah, there you go. And then you can choose your items, and then you could choose your duration column if you have that. You can give it a fancy name like the best ROS, and then you can hit import. And then from there, you have the best ROS right here. So that's a really quick, down and dirty way to get up and running with Shoflo, and then go off to the races from there. Our little blue chat down here, you're going to be able to reach out to JP and the rest of our team, and they can work you through any of the other details. We go ahead and just dump all the item numbers and the times all over here, just because we don't want to get in and try to overly complicate the import. At the end of the day, the expectation is that you would just delete these things and just kind of get it down to a really simple solution. Also, just in general, shoot it our way. We've got time as well. We want to get you a run a show up and imported and let you play with it for a couple weeks. Next question. Can you scroll the presenter, or does the presenter have to scroll on their own? So I think I answered that a little bit. I want to go back and hit that question real quick. So for a customer who's in the presenter view, there's really layers of that question. I want to hit that question for you. That one matters. So right now in this view, there's no like scrolling that happens outside of me with my little scroll bar on my mouse, and I think that that's good by design. I think that the world of streaming with remote presenters being like, there's a delay. We're not talking about fiber-based broadcasts like you'll get with CNN and Fox News. So there will be delays, and I think the idea of remote controlling their presenter is something that is a little bit in TBD in terms of where that tech's at. Shoflo is actually building the technology right now to where this remote presenter view can be something that as a producer or as a teleprompter operator from New York City, that you could actually come in here and say spacebar, and we will force them to be the next, we'll force their screen to go forward, or we'll force the screen to go backwards. So we're going to have that for you to test out on. I still think that we should all be more in the interest of rehearsing and trying that out than doing that in a live environment, because streams have delays and internet has delay. We should just be careful in that area. That being said, if they are looking to have an auto-driven, like to have something actively scroll for them, if you were to guide them, and we will have articles that really walk them through how to do this, but if you were to guide them on how to do this, then they could get to this view and then simply just hit the space bar, and then they could kind of go into active scroll mode, whatever they need to do. And so you can really control the speed and the direction and all that kind of stuff. And then just they can kind of go into a really nice slow scroll. So I would say in general, it's available to them. It's more about in featured view, probably letting them scroll themselves. The other note I want to make about that is, and I didn't quite get to it, tracking does work in featured view, and there are good things and there's some things with that, right? So tracking is the idea that this user is being forced forward in the run of show by this user. So if I hit the space bar, the user on the left actually is advanced forwards. So that's pretty cool. Specifically, if you have your script broken up over multiple elements, you could, for example, track directly to Jeff. Sorry, I'll put it up here. I could track directly to Jeff's presentation, and it will load Jeff's presentation into featured view. So there's pros on that. It's all about how you design the script and the run of show, and it's all about how you are communicating with your remote presenter that, hey, we're going to move this forward for you. It's no different than what we do with presenter notes, right? On the stage, you've got the guy walks out, and he's got 6 bullets. And then there's someone backstage who's actually advancing him to the next 6 bullets, and it's just slide by slide by slide, white text over black in PowerPoint. That's the same thing we're talking about here. So it can be just as simple as that, where you're just advancing him from row to row. But we just need to be careful about that. You know, we just need to be honest about what's happening there, because you don't want them to feel like you just took them out of a thing while they were in the middle of talking, because that obviously doesn't work. All right, moving on. Can someone remotely send prompter view to a presenter? I think we covered that a little bit earlier. You can, if they're in the right views, you can drive them forwards. And actually to that end, everything I just demonstrated where prompter or featured view advances automatically, you can do the same thing with presentation view. That's actually worth taking a second and demonstrating. So let me open up my script column real quick. So here's the deal. Let's say that Rachel actually has 5 different rows. And so I just quickly added 5 different rows. I'm not even going to really name them right now. And let's just say that every one of them has their own speaker prompt, right? And then I'm just going to quickly kind of just change the text color of this, just so that you can kind of see when I switch around that they look different. Put a green. Okay, cool. So now let's go and say Rachel is actually in this view right here. So from over here, if I advance from row to row to row, we're going to actually see, boom, there it goes, that it advanced, right? And she can then control her featured size. And so that is the same as a remote controlled presentation view. And that's huge, right? In addition to that, if you were to go into prompter view, if you were to guide your presenter, and again, you can do this all beforehand. Should have turned that dang thing on beforehand. So yeah, so if you were to actually say, hey, I actually want you to go ahead and be set up with prompter, you could do a reverse zoom and actually control his mouse, get his whole camera set up. I would encourage you this as a technical team. Don't just wait and see if it works. You need to actually like reverse the zoom control and go and put everything exactly where it is, and then guide your presenter to not touch anything at all. And you're taking over control of muting their mics. You're taking over control of their video and things of that nature. So absolutely, that's the same philosophy and approach that we do when we produce a live show and a venue, and it shouldn't be any different for a remote presentation. That being said, yes, if you were to take them to say this view right here, and let me go ahead and jump back up just a little bit. I won't get into this. I'm gonna track her forward. There we are. So if you were to have that set up, and then on your show caller side, if you were to track forward to the next row, we can see we loaded that right there in front of them. And again, if you didn't follow everything I did there, I just changed the text color on a per row basis so as to demonstrate that it significantly changed. I didn't change the text itself. So pretty cool, an effective way to do it. That comes back to how are you building out your run of show, right? That comes down to how you building out your rundown. At that point, to be honest, if I was just to sort of do this on the fly, I'd actually probably convert Rachel to a title row and then call these Rachel, sub Q, 1, and whatever you need to do. And that's probably what I might call that. So I'd be interested to think through that a little bit more with anybody who wants to, but that's probably what I would do there. And so you're kind of demonstrating that Rachel's in a 10-minute presentation, and these are the sub-elements of her presentation. I'll keep rolling, guys. Will prompter follow? Similar questions. Can it be turned on and off? Okay, I don't know if I hit that. That's a good one. So can prompter be followed? Yes, I just demonstrated that. Can you turn it on and off? Yes. Right here, on, off. You can choose who you want to follow. That is another key one, guys. That is a very, very important one. They can choose to follow a prompter operator who's remotely prompting and tracking using the show caller functionality to move us through a script. But your production team can follow a stage manager or a show caller who's actually queuing us through a script. Those are very different things. So you can have your presenters follow a different show caller than your technical and production crew. And I think that's a really fundamental way to think about this, because that way you can move forwards and backwards based on what technically you need to communicate to your crew, but you can control the moving forwards and backwards for the presenter. I like that. I kind of actually just thought of that on the fly. Let's circle back to templates real quick. I think that's a really good one that someone was asking questions about earlier. To that end, in templates, in Shoflo, sorry, we make it super easy, super easy to get going. You can hit create show. First of all, anyone on this call can have a trial, and you should. There's nothing else to do, so you should get in here and you should have a trial. And we'll open it up for you, however long you need. But get in here, play around with this stuff. That being said, you've got corporate run a show, broadcast. These are Shoflo generated templates. As a service provider for the industry, we have seen thousands of run of shows. So trust me when I say these things are really the best of what we've seen across everything. But to that end, if you want to do a corporate run of show, we could say that this is, GS day 2. Hit create show. Here it is. And now we're going to start with whatever came from the template of that GS day 2, which looks like, I think JP and his team really produce out these things. And we can see we have multiple sessions. So we're going to get you going fast, right? We then have loads and loads of help articles that can walk you through timing and things of that nature. That's all down here. Or at least it starts down here, and then really it's whatever you want. So you can say duration times. You can search that, and we'll quickly serve you up a whole bunch of options here, how to change the type of duration. That'll bring it in. You can watch videos. We're pretty well documented on all that space. So I encourage you to get in. Shoflo is pretty safe and easy to get a trial going on and play with that stuff. That being said, the other benefit that you can do is you can actually save anything you've done as a preset. So let's say I'm working in week 1, which is what I have been doing. You can come in here, hit save template, and that actually saves it all the way up to the template library. What's the template library? Well, I'll go into that at a later day. At the end of that, for the most part, it's a repository for you as a event agency or as an event internal, as a team producing internal events. It's a place for you to track and manage all of your templates, and you can see that they're right here. And you can actually go into any one of these and continue to improve that. So you can go, oh, I like that I did there last week. Let's go ahead and change the flow of this. Let's change it from CamX to Zoom 1 to Zoom 2. You can make that change here, and then the next time that you go to create a new show, again, I'm going to go into the weekly all hands, and let's say we need to create week 6. I can hit create show. I can see that I have week 1, which I should have probably given it a better name for that. I'm going to come in there and I'm going to call that week 10. And hit create event, create show. Here's week 10. We're going to get going with week 10. And you can see right here, we got started right here with everything you needed right out of the gate. So a lot of room. That's a philosophy that we really lean into hard. You should be improving all the time. It's an iterative process. I think the best thing you can do is look towards what the industries have identified as best practices, and then in turn find your unique groove inside of that, and then iterate on side of that week over week over week over week. So that's kind of where we're at there. Well, guys, I just want to go ahead and say this was adaptive, but I hope helpful. The spirit of Shoflo in this time is this simple. Sucks what's going on out there, and I'm sorry. And it's hitting us, it's hitting you guys, it's hitting everybody. But we can learn from each other, and we should. I think that the sports industry has always done a wonderful job, actually, at competing on the court, but in terms of the game presentation teams and the people who produce content there, they really are big on idea sharing. I want that more for event agency. I know it's hard because everybody's working towards the same clients, but I want that more. My hope is that this is a neutral space. It's a place where you guys can come in and learn some new tricks, maybe see what other people are doing if they feel comfortable with it. And then at the end of the day, just use this as a time to educate yourself so that you come out of this this tough period, this winter, more equipped to go out there and kick butt, because events are coming back, sports are coming back, This whole thing's coming, guys. It'll be different. It will be different, and there will be more virtual meetings. But the need to do better than this will not change. This is not good enough for our clients, and it shouldn't be. And this is where we come in. Our job's to give them better than this. And I think we can. So anyways, I really appreciate everybody. If you're looking for more, go to shoflo.tv, of course. And honestly, if you want to be on a webinar, we do customer spotlights where we just get in and show you what you're doing and give you an opportunity to share with your team, with the greater people. So ping JP or come in on the blue chat and talk to us about it. And if you want a free trial, if you're not in a free trial, you should get in a free trial. It's no harm. We're not going to charge you. So get in, explore it, have fun. I appreciate you guys very much. Take it easy, and we'll post this and make this available for your greater team if you want to share it around. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.